Chapter 7. On the 5th day, the secret of the little prince's life was uncovered to me. As always, it was thanks to the sheep. Suddenly, without anything to reason, and as if the question had been born of deep and silent thinking on his problem, he asked, "A sheep, if it eats little bushes, does it eat flowers too?" "A sheep eats anything it finds in its reach," I answered. "Even flowers that have thorns?" "Yes, even flowers that have thorns." "Then the thorns, what use are they?" I did not know. At that moment, I was very busy trying to unscrew a bolt in my engine. I was very much worried, for it was becoming to me that the breakdown of my plane was very serious, and I had so little drinking water left that I had to fear for the worst. "The thorns, what use are they?" The little prince never let go of a question once he had asked it. As for me, I was upset over that bolt, and I answered with the first thing that came into my head. "The thorns are of no use at all. Flowers have thorns because they are not nice." "Oh." There was a moment of silence. Then the little prince suddenly answered with anger. "I don't believe you. Flowers are weak creatures. They are innocent. They protect themselves as best they can. They believe that their thorns are terrible weapons." I did not answer. At that moment, I was saying to myself, "If this bolt still won't turn, I am going to remove it with the hammer." Again, the little prince stopped my thoughts. "And you actually believe that the flowers—" "Oh, no," I cried. "No, no, no. I don't believe anything. I answered you with the first thing that came into my head. Don't you see? I am very busy with matters of consequence." He stared at me, thunderstruck. "Matters of consequence?" I had my hammer in my hand, my fingers black with engine oil, bending down over an ugly object. "You talk just like the grown-ups." That made me a little ashamed, but he went on, merciless. "You mix everything up together. You confuse everything." He was really very angry. He tossed his golden curly hair all over. "I know a planet where there is a special red-faced gentleman. He has never smelled a flower. He has never looked at a star. He has never loved anyone. He has never done anything in his life but adds up numbers. And all day he says over and over, just like you, 'I am busy with matters of consequence.' And that makes him increase with pride. But he is not a man. He is a mushroom." "A what?" "A mushroom." The little prince was now white with anger. "The flowers have been growing thorns for millions of years. For millions of years, the sheep have been eating them just the same. And is it not a matter of a consequence to try to understand why the flowers work hard to make useless thorns? Is the war between the sheep and the flowers not important? Is it not more important than a fat, red-faced gentleman's sums? And if I know one flower which is unique in the world, which grows nowhere but on my planet, but one little sheep can destroy it in a single bite some morning without any noise what he is doing, oh, you think that is not important?" His face turned from white to red as he continued. "If someone loves a flower which grows only on one star, it is enough to make him happy to look at the stars. He can say to himself, 'Somewhere my flower is there.' But if the sheep eats the flower, in one moment all his stars will be darkened. And you think that is not important?" He could not say anything more. His words were choked by crying. The night had fallen. I had let my tools drop from my hands. Right now, my tools, thirst, or death did not matter. On one star, one planet, my planet, the Earth, there was a little prince to be comforted. I took him in my arms and rocked him. I said to him, "The flower that you love is not in danger. I will draw you a mask for your sheep. I will draw you a fence to put around your flower. I will." I did not know what to say to him. I felt uncomfortable and wrong. I did not know how I could reach him, where I could overtake him and go on hand in hand with him once more. It is such a secret place, the land of tears. Chapter 8. Soon I learned to know this flower better. On the little prince's planet, the flowers had always been very simple. They had only one ring of petals. They took no space at all. They were a trouble to nobody. One morning they would appear in the grass, and by night they would have faded peacefully away. But one day, a seed blew from somewhere. A new flower had come up, and the little prince had watched very closely over this small sprout. It was not like any other small sprouts on his planet. It might have been a new kind of baobab. The shrub soon stopped growing and began to get ready to flower. The little prince saw the first coming of a huge bud. He felt at once that some kind of awesome thing must come up from it. But the flower was not satisfied to complete the plans for her beauty in the shelter of her green room. She chose her colors with the highest care. She dressed slowly. She set her petals one by one. She did not wish to go out into the world all messy, like the field flowers. It was only in the full brightness of her beauty that she wished to appear. Oh, yes, she was an attractive creature, and her fantastic beauty lasted for days and days. Then, one morning, she suddenly showed herself, and after walking with all this extremely carefully detail, she yawned and said, "Oh, I am hardly awake. I beg that you will excuse me. My petals are still all messy." But the little prince could not hold his surprise. "Oh, how beautiful you are!" "Am I not?" the flower replied sweetly. "And I was born at the same moment as the sun." The little prince could guess easily enough that she was too proud. But how exciting she was! "I think it's time for breakfast," she added a second later. "If you would kindly think about my needs." And the little prince, completely confused, went to look for fresh water. So he took care of the flower. So she began very quickly to stress him with her self-love too. Honestly, it is difficult to deal with. For example, one day she was speaking of her 4 thorns. She said to the little prince, "Let the tigers come with their claws." "There are no tigers on my planet," the little prince disagreed. "And tigers do not eat wild plants." "I am not a wild plant," the flower replied sweetly. "Please excuse me. I am not at all afraid of tigers," she went on, "but I have a horror of wind. I guess you have a screen for me?" "A horror of winds? That is bad luck for a plant," commented the little prince, and added to himself, "This flower is a very complex creature. At night, I want you to put me under a glass cup. It is very cold where you live, in the place where I came from." But she stopped saying herself at that point. She had come from a seed. She could not have known anything of any other worlds. Embarrassed about being caught saying a lie, she coughed 2 or 3 times and tried to blame the little prince. "The screen? I was just going to look for it when you spoke to me." Then she forced her cough a little more so that he could suffer from regret. So the little prince, in spite of all the goodwill that was from his love, had soon come to doubt her. He had taken seriously words which were without importance. Finally, it made him very unhappy. "I ought not to have listened to her," he set his mind to me one day. "No one ought to listen to the flowers. One should simply look at them and breathe their smell. My flower perfumed all my planet, but I did not know how to enjoy all her grace. This story of claws, which upset me so much, I should only have filled my heart with kindness and pity." And he continued to say his mind. "The fact is that I did not know how to understand anything. I should have judged by acts and not by words. She tossed her smell and her brightness over me. I should never have run away from her. I should have guessed all the love that behind her poor little bad word. Flowers are so illogical. But I was too young to know how to love her." Chapter 9. I believe that for his escape, he used the moving of a group of wild birds. On the morning of his departure, he cleaned his planet perfectly. He carefully cleaned out his active volcanoes. He had 2 active volcanoes, and they were very helpful for heating his breakfast in the morning. He also had 1 volcano that was dead. But, as he said, one never knows. So he cleaned out the dead volcano, too. If they are well cleaned out, volcanoes burn slowly and steadily, without any explosions. Volcanic lava is like a fire in a fireplace. On our Earth, we are surely much too small to clean out our volcanoes. That is why they bring no end of trouble on us. The little prince also pulled up the last little shoots of the baobabs with a certain sense of sadness. He believed that he would never want to return. But on this last morning, all these familiar tasks seemed very precious to him. And when he watered the flower for the last time and prepared to place her under the shelter of her glass cup, he realized that he was very close to tears. "Goodbye," he said to the flower. But she made no answer. "Goodbye," he said again. The flower coughed, but it was not because she had a cold. "I have been silly," she said to him at last. "I ask your forgiveness. Try to be happy." He was surprised by this absence of complaints. He stood there, all confused, the glass cup held in mid-air. He did not understand this quiet sweetness. "Of course, I love you," the flower said to him. "It is my fault that you have not known it all the time. That is not important, but you have been just as foolish as I. Try to be happy. Let the glass cup be. I don't want it anymore." "But the wind." "My cold is not so bad as all that. The cool night air will do me good. I am a flower." "But the animals." "Well, I must endure 2 or 3 worms if I wish to become friends with the butterflies. It seems that they are very beautiful, and if not the butterflies and the worms, who will call upon me? You will be far away. As for the large animals, I am not at all afraid of any of them. I have my claws." And she showed her 4 thorns. Then she added, "Don't stay like this. You have decided to go away. Now go." For she did not want him to see her crying. She was such a proud flower.